Buying a home in Canton, Georgia, is it even worth it? The typical kind of home that you can find here is going to be like two-story traditional style homes. We do have every once in a while like the farmhouse style homes that are getting very popular. Also, craftsman style homes. If they're less than like 3 years old, you can typically find those kinds of craftsman or farmhouse style homes. But the overwhelming majority of homes here in Canton are two-story homes. We don't really have a lot of ranch style homes. The reason for that is because the builders can get more home, they can build more home with a smaller footprint if they build up instead of outward. And then also we don't have like earthquakes here or hurricanes, and so those kinds of building codes are not something that people have to worry about here. So they build homes that are taller than in areas like California or Florida, where they do have those natural disasters. So two-story homes are by far the most common kind of home that you find here in Canton, Georgia. What's up, y'all? My name is Victor with Atlanta Suburban Living, and we put out videos every week about what it's like to live in Atlanta and the surrounding suburbs of Atlanta. Whether or not you're going to buy a home in Canton also depends on how much competition there is here in this area. And one number that we use to determine the amount of competition among buyers in an area is the average days that a listing is on the market before it goes under contract. In Canton, the average days on market is 11 days. And for comparison or for context, the average days in Marietta is like 26 days. And in Alpharetta, which is another super popular area, it's 6 days. So Canton is right there in the middle. More competition in Canton than there is in Marietta, and less buyer competition in Canton than you can find in Alpharetta. But you should definitely know that this area is becoming very popular, which is why, even though it's pretty close to Marietta, it has more buyer demand than Marietta. It's becoming a very popular area, especially as people are working from home more often and they don't have to be so close to the city of Atlanta, or they don't have to be so close to the big cities like Marietta. They can work farther out in areas that are like more rural. Canton is exactly the kind of city that's getting very popular. And there are a few things that you can do to try to get an advantage over the other buyers. One of those things is when you are buying a home with a loan, to get your lender to put you through underwriting before you find the address or the property that you want to buy. Usually when you are buying a home with a loan, the lender will put you through underwriting in the middle of the contract period. But if you can get through underwriting first, this really helps out, and the seller prefers buyers who have already been through underwriting, so it gives you a leg up over the other buyers. Another thing you can do is see homes virtually. If you are coming from another state like California or Florida or Chicago or any part of the country or even the US, we here at Atlanta Suburban Living do virtual tours for people who are considering buying a home here in Metro Atlanta from places that are farther away. So instead of you having to drive all the way over here or fly all the way over here, we can come up with a list of homes that you want to see. And I would go out to the home and we would do a virtual tour over FaceTime or Zoom or whatever platform works best for you, so that you can get a good look of that home and ideally, again, kind of get an advantage over the other buyers. Now, a common question is if you are seeing a home with like a virtual tour, are you going to be willing to buy the home based on just a virtual tour? And we have a great solution for that. One thing that you can do here in Georgia is use the due diligence period. During the due diligence period, which almost every buyer has when they're buying a home, you can cancel a contract for any reason at all. So if you find a house and you love it and you make an offer and the seller accepts that offer to buy the home, you can then come in person to visit, see the home, and make sure that it's exactly what you've seen in the pictures and in the videos. And if for some reason you're like, oh wait, this actually doesn't look like what I thought it was, you can terminate a contract for any reason here in Georgia. Or, of course, you continue with the contract period and we continue with the purchase contract. And so that due diligence period is very helpful for people who are buying homes here in Atlanta from out of state. If you have any questions about that process or are considering buying a home here in Metro Atlanta, feel free to call, text, or email me anytime. Thank you so much to everybody who has reached out. I'm always happy to help. But another big factor for whether or not it's worth buying a home here in Canton is the price of the homes. And the price of the homes largely depends on what part of Canton the home is in, and it also largely depends on the age of the home. For example, there are a few different areas of Canton because it's so far out, because it's kind of in a rural part of Metro Atlanta. There's the downtown part of Canton, which is like the very oldest part of the city. This is like when Canton was established, that's where the city was. You know, that city center has now grown outward, but that city center is the oldest part. And so you have a lot of the oldest buildings there, and businesses and homes tend to be a bit older in that downtown Canton area. But it is also very popular. So homes, even though they are aged, tend to be a little more expensive in the downtown area. And then the majority of Canton is like this typical suburban American area where you have like the big neighborhoods, you know, and then outside of the neighborhoods, lots of shopping areas, commercial spaces for shopping or for restaurants. And so that's what the majority of Canton looks like. But then there's also parts of Canton that are very rural, like super far out, and you might be, you know, 5 to 10 minutes to the local grocery store instead of like a mile or two. Like in the suburban area, you're looking at super close to a grocery store. But if you're in the quote unquote rural part of Canton, then you might have to go 5 to 10 minutes to a grocery store. And so it is kind of different parts of Canton, and the homes vary certainly depending on what area you're in. Another big factor is the age of homes. In the last 6 months, for homes that are 20 years old or newer, so anywhere between that 2024 range to 2004, in the last 6 months, you're looking at an average home price of about $580,000. There are a few homes there in the low 500s, but anything lower than 500, less than 20 years old, is not really recommended. You're probably looking at like a fixer-upper or some kind of risky situation. So really you're looking at 500 or above for a home that is 20 years old or newer. But then when it comes to homes that are older, so 2004 or older, the average home price in the last 6 months is $525,000. Not a very big difference there, but you can definitely find homes in the 400s that are homes that are older than 2004. Super common to find homes in the 400s price range. And then of course, another big factor for whether or not you should buy a home here is going to be where you might be working, or, you know, what your daily commute is going to look like. So the distance from downtown Canton to midtown Atlanta is 38 miles. And I just checked here during rush hour as I'm filming this video, and it's an hour and 15-minute drive from downtown Canton to midtown. To Sandy Springs, you're looking at 27 miles, about 30 to 60 minutes depending on traffic. To Lockheed Martin or the Dobbins Air Base is 26 miles, about 20 minutes to 45 minutes. And from Canton to Alpharetta is about 19 miles, which would take about 30 to 45 minutes. So unless you're working in Canton, you can expect a bit of a commute to wherever you might be going. If you're living in Canton and, you know, driving somewhere else, Canton is a bit far out, so that's certainly a part of living there, is that commute. Now, keep in mind that Canton is right off of Interstate 575, which is a main road that we use to get to different parts of Metro Atlanta. So while it is a bit long, you do have a straight shot to these different areas using the interstate system. And then within Canton, a few distances to like the local grocery stores, there's a Publix about 1.5 miles from the center of Canton, a Kroger that's about 2 to 3 miles, and an Aldi that's at 1.5 miles. Aldi is definitely my favorite grocery store when it comes to all of the different options we have here. So that is super important. Currently for sale in Canton, there's 242 Idlewild Way, is a 3-bed, 3-bath, about 2,700 square feet, and it's built in 2020. Idlewild Way, they're asking 620,000. Also, 341 Allendale Drive is a 5-bedroom, 4-bath home, about 5,400 square feet. They're asking 900,000, and it's built in 2001. Also, 922 Mill Creek Avenue is a 4-bed, 3-bath home, about 3,200 square feet, built in 2003, and they're asking 495,000. So home prices are certainly increasing here in Canton because of its popularity. There's so many great things about living in this Canton area, but there are also some downsides to living in Canton. And if you're thinking about buying a home here, you should certainly know about the downsides of living in Canton. We want to make sure that we're painting a very clear and transparent picture about what it's like living in these areas. We don't want to just like gloss over the negative sides of living here. So it's important that you know the pros and the cons of living in Canton. In fact, I made an entire video about the pros and cons of living here. You can check out that video right here. I'll see you in the next one.